Do you have a fat loss goal in mind for 2025? If so, you need to hear this today. But first, grab my free preemptive cheat sheet in the show notes and start eating normal and feel more confident about your food choices this week. I remember back at the start of my own fitness journey when I struggled with being consistent with my nutrition and always starting over on Mondays, trying to make up for overindulging by exercising more or hopping on another restrictive diet, thinking about food constantly, second-guessing food decisions, and feeling mentally drained, feeling anxious about social situations, dining out, and holidays, and being out of control with food. And of course, feeling frustrated with the lack of results I was getting. Although I wanted to see fat loss, in hindsight, I was missing some important skills that I needed to master first. But once I figured out how to eat when I was hungry and stop when I was full, be able to navigate going out and traveling without anxiety, guilt, or weight gain, and when I started realizing that no foods were off limits, I just needed to be mindful and learn how to eat moderately. Since then, I've been able to lose the weight and keep it off. And I am thinking about food way less. I now have the brain space for the things that truly matter in my life. And you can have this too. Inside my free preemptive cheat sheet is exactly what I did to get my cravings under control and still enjoy my favorite foods without eating it all now. So be sure to grab my free preemptive cheat sheet in the show notes and get started today. Well, hey there. Welcome to the Lean Lifestyle Podcast, where we talk all the things about losing fat and building muscle in your 40s and beyond. This is your host, Courtney Whitten, certified personal trainer and health coach and owner of C Fitness. Welcome to our show. So today we are talking about binge eating. We're talking about overindulging. And I really want to start shifting to talking more about this subject because I don't think I'm alone here, but this is something that I used to struggle with quite a bit, especially earlier on in my own fitness journey. And I know that a lot of other women struggle with this too. And this is exactly why recently I actually became certified in Moderation 365, which is a program that helps you eat the same on Saturday as you do on Monday. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Before we dive in, I do want to remind you that I have a new free resource for you. You can grab it in the show notes. It is called the Preemptive Cheat Sheet, which we will be talking a little bit more about today. But basically, Preemptive Cheat Sheets is a method of having something that you're craving earlier in the day, adding some flavor to your meals, or even just adding more calories in general to your meals as a way to combat cravings later, as a way to avoid overindulging later. So you can pick up that free resource by going into the show notes. There is a link. And once you sign up, you just have to put your name and email address in. You will get immediate access to the preemptive cheat sheet. It's been game-changing for me and my clients, and I hope you give it a try. But if you wake up most mornings with a food hangover and you tell yourself that today's going to be different, you're in the right place, my friend. We are talking about overindulging. We're talking about binge eating, and we're also talking about why dieting makes us dumber. And this is absolutely something that I have struggled with throughout my whole journey. And it really was like why I got into fitness in the first place was my addiction to sugar, my addiction to fast food and soda, and feeling completely out of control with food. And over the years, I really have shifted to mindful eating practices and also practicing moderation when it comes to eating. And it's been completely game-changing for me. So I really hope you tune in today because we are talking about the one thing that really causes this. And we are going to be talking about what you can do in order to get your eating under control, because I really want you all to feel like you can get your eating under control, that you can trust yourself around food, that you can eat like a normal person. I remember for me, that was something that was always in the back of my head. Like, am I ever going to learn how to eat like a normal person? So if that is your goal, then definitely stick around because I have something to say about this subject. And we are just going to go ahead and dive on in. And what I want to say here, what is causing this, y'all, is our good intentions. Okay. And what I mean by this is the dieting. So, y'all who have been listening to my show, this comes up a lot. I am not like against dieting. I'm definitely not against weight loss. That is something that I do help my clients with. But at the same time, this is something that if you are not doing it correctly, if you're being too restrictive, then more than likely is probably causing you to overeat later. And if that is the issue, we all know that it takes a calorie deficit in order to lose weight, right? We need to eat less calories than our body expends in order for weight loss to happen. That is a fact. This is science. But I also believe that if we are in this mindset of dieting too much, if we are too restrictive, then I would say 99% of the time is going to lead to overindulgence later. So what happens is we get this yo-yo effect with our nutrition, and a lot of times our weight as well, our body composition as well. So we really need to be careful because this can cause a lot of guilt and shame. And whenever we feel this way, whenever we experience this guilt and shame, a lot of times it just reinforces our results. It's like, see, I knew this wasn't going to work. Like, look at the results I'm getting. Like, I feel terrible. My digestion's off. I'm gaining weight throughout the years as this problem gets worse and worse. So it just reinforces the restrict and then binge cycle, like I like to call it. So basically, we get too restrictive with our nutrition. And then over time, and really all it takes is just having a bad day and having this thought of screw it or F it. And then we throw our eating healthy plans completely out the window and we end up ping-ponging over to the other side where we don't care what we're eating. We'll deal with it later is what we're thinking. And we just kind of get into this F it mindset of what's the use? This is never going to change for me. This keeps happening to me. I'm just someone who is never going to be able to figure out my eating. I'm never going to be able to eat like a normal person. So whenever we get stuck in these beliefs, it just reinforces everything and we get stuck deeper and deeper into the cycle. So really the culprit is dieting. Dieting makes us dumber. Think about this, y'all. Like, how many diets have you done? So if you're my age or older, you probably have a pretty long diet history like myself. I know I've tried many different things, but here's the issue with dieting. Not that I'm against dieting. I don't want you all to think that because there is a time and a place. But if the result is overindulgence, then we really need to take a step back and really take a look at our behaviors and what that's triggering. Because again, if we are too restrictive, then we're probably more than likely going to overindulge later. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. We want to avoid these highs and lows with our nutrition and just find a way of eating that actually works for us, a way of eating that can help us get to our goals or at least make some progress towards our goals, make things a little bit better, but also like actually enjoy it, right? So this is really where my role comes in with Moderation 365 is helping my clients find the foods that work for them and also be able to find a way to incorporate those favorite foods so that way we're not overindulging later. So that's what I want to say about that. Dieting makes us dumber, okay? And the reason why is because if we follow a plan, okay, we're not thinking about like what my body actually needs in that moment. You know, maybe like, you know, I'm actually hungry, but my meal plan says, nope, you can't eat right now. Well, then we start getting like less sensitive to our hunger and fullness cues. And this is so key. This is something that a lot of women don't have. They don't have this skill of knowing when they are experiencing physical hunger or if it's a craving, right? A lot of times women overeat because they are not paying attention. They're not aware of their fullness cues. So this is another issue. So by dieting, by following these crazy plans, a lot of times it takes autonomy completely out of the equation. And before we know it, we're eating foods that we don't enjoy, and then we're feeling bitter about that. That can cause us to binge later. And also, again, we have no idea when we're hungry, when we're actually physically hungry. We do not know the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. And that can be an issue as well, because a lot of times we might just think that we're hungry, but really it's just a craving. And we need to learn how to deal with these things. We need to know the difference between physical and emotional hunger. We need to know how to respond to cravings. And not only that, we also need to be less strict. I think this is probably one of the most important things. I know this is why I have been so successful with having my body composition exactly how I want it, is because I allow myself to eat the foods that I like, and I allow myself to change course. Like, if we have like a lot of rules around how we eat and that's just not working for us anymore, then it's probably not going to end well. Like, we have to learn how to be adaptable. And yes, you can change. So for example, I used to follow a keto diet, and I actually still, for the most part, eat one. But lately, I've actually been noticing that I've been wanting to incorporate some more carbs into my diet. And so I have. So what I've been doing, I've been having some carbohydrates in the morning. It's been helping me with my workouts. I have seen a little bit of increase in just the intensity. So that's just an example of how you guys can totally shift. Like, sometimes things will work for you for a while. And honestly, I did keto really because of the whole hunger thing. There was a time that I wanted to lose body fat, and I was still struggling with cravings. And for me, it did work for quite a long time, actually. And it really did help me get my hunger and my cravings under control. But again, I just think that it's really important to listen to your body, try different things if that's what is being called to you, and be adaptable, and just make sure that you are actually including the foods that you love into your nutrition. And there is a way to do this. So again, if you guys go into the show notes, you guys can grab my preemptive cheat sheet. There are several ways that you can do this. You can implement this to help you stop overeating at night, or at least to help you reduce the severity of it. So even that is a huge win. But in order to do this, basically what you're doing is anticipating that earlier in the day, because I think the main problem here with things like night eating or binging on the weekends, the real issue here is that people try to rely on willpower. So just to kind of like put this in perspective, because a lot of diets out there, they are like, just try harder. You just need to want it more. Like, you just need to, grit your teeth and just do it. I disagree with that, because it's just not realistic. Because here's really the truth. The truth is that willpower is like a battery. Okay. You're going to have days where you have more willpower than others. You're going to have days where it's feeling really strong, right? Especially like beginning of the week or in the morning. Can you see why? It's kind of like overnight when you sleep, right? Your willpower battery gets charged, right? Beginning of the week, beginning of the day, your willpower is going to be stronger. This is why, like, late afternoon, sometimes those craving hits, or after the kids go to bed, those cravings start to hit. Or maybe this is kind of the camp I was in. I did struggle with night eating, but I really struggled on the weekends. I would try to be good during the week, but then on the weekends, it was like off to the races, right? And I would outdo all of the hard work that I did Monday through Thursday, and then I would just binge all weekend long. And then I felt terrible going into Monday. The scale would be up. I had a food hangover. I was bloated. My digestion was off. All of these things. And that actually caused me to do things like overcompensate with exercise, or overcompensate by going on another restrictive diet come Monday morning. So I do think that this is a real problem in the fitness and health industry for women. And it's something that a lot of people are not talking about. Like the fixes to just try harder or try this other diet or, just deal with it. Those are just not good solutions, and they're not solutions that make us feel good. So instead, I do think that we are missing as a society two main skills, and that is moderation and mindfulness. So let's talk about this real quick because I do think that these words kind of get thrown around a little bit. And it's kind of one of those things like, what the heck does that even mean, right? Like eat mindfully. So mindfulness, let's talk about that real quick. So mindfulness is really about listening to your own hunger and fullness cues, listening to biofeedback markers. So your hunger, your energy, your cravings, those types of things. So using these things as markers. And I think it's a really good idea to use these things as markers. Knowing when you've had enough food, having that skill of eating slowly and checking in and like just asking yourself questions such as, am I actually enjoying this meal? Is this meal satisfying? Those types of things can really be helpful because again, dieting makes us dumber. It really takes away our biofeedback markers. We're not paying attention to satiety signals. We're not paying attention to when we're actually hungry. We're eating around the clock because some meal plan or some diet is telling us, right? Like it takes out autonomy. So I think it's really, really important to have the skill of mindfulness to be able to stop, right? And actually assess. So one of the tools that I teach inside Moderation 365, which is my one-on-one nutrition coaching program that is opening up, let's see, in early February. I might be able to onboard some people late January. So if you're interested, and I will say this, I do have limited spots, make sure that you reach out to me and I will send you a coaching application. I only have 8 spots for this, okay? So the sooner that you speak up, the more likely you're going to be able to get into this round. Otherwise, my next enrollment period is going to be early May, okay? So send me an email at cfitnessonlinetraining@gmail.com and I will send you a coaching application. And we can also set up a free chat if you want to talk a little bit more about the program and about what your goals are for the new year. But one of the tools that I teach for mindfulness inside Moderation 365 is setting an alarm, okay? So super simple, and this is something that you can totally start doing today to start seeing some results, but just simply setting an alarm for every about 3 hours or so just to assess your hunger, okay? So basically not like setting an alarm to eat. That's more like diet mentality, right? And we want to get away from that. I really want my clients to check in every 3 hours or so by just setting an alarm on your phone, or you can use Post-its to remind you. But just like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how hungry am I? Like, 1 is starving and 10 is stuff like Thanksgiving stuff. Just assessing, okay? And the reason why this works is a couple things. It's going to make you more aware of your hunger and fullness cues. I think this is really big, especially if you're struggling with overeating or binge eating. And then the other thing is going to help you do is kind of think ahead. So say that you're like a 5, okay? You're like kind of right there in the middle, right? So what that means, okay, so I'm not hungry and I'm not really full. I'm just kind of like right there in the middle. Great. That's good. But basically, we need to start thinking probably in about 2 hours or so, I'm probably going to dip down to like a 3 or a 4. So I need to start thinking about my next meal now. So that can really help you kind of get a little more awareness and like thinking ahead, like not in an obsessive way. Like a lot of times we kind of get into this obsessive thinking with food whenever we're like in this diet mentality. Anytime that we binge ate and then all we can do is think about it, right? And kind of like basically have negative thoughts. But in a good way, you kind of start thinking ahead, like, okay, I just need to like have some kind of meal in the next couple of hours. So that's what that's going to help you do. It's going to help you get a little bit more in tune with your hunger and your fullness. Get in the habit of like stopping yourself. Besides, because this is something that I dealt with for a long time, was just eating around the clock. I would literally eat at 7, I would eat at 11, I would eat at 2, I would eat at 4, I would eat at 6. And I literally one day was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm just like eating because it's mealtime. Y'all, like, this is not good. You should not eat just because it's mealtime, right? Like, yes, have a little bit of structure with your meals, absolutely. But if you're not hungry, like, don't eat, right? Or maybe you have a smaller portion of food, right? If say that, you can't push your meal back for some reason, then yeah, maybe you'll adjust and have a smaller portion of that meal. So this is something that is so, so important, okay? Because if you're struggling with weight loss, if you are struggling with digestion even, right? Like, this is something that we really need to get under control. We need to get in tune with that hunger and fullness cues, okay? So one thing that you guys can do with that is just checking in every 3 hours or so, like, how am I feeling? And also, I like to use this, use it like, how hungry am I? But you can also, I love this as well, you can also use the every 3 hour rule to basically check in with your last meal. I think this is really good too, because this is going to help you build that skill of finding the right meals for you. Okay. So for example, I'm going to check in with my last meal. It is 2:00. I ate, it was almost noon. So almost 2 hours ago, I had some chicken enchilada soup. It was so good. I made it with, I put in my crock pot, some boneless chicken thighs. I put in some green enchilada sauce, some green chili, some onion, and a little bit of chicken broth. And I cooked that sucker on low all day. You shred the chicken up, and I had that with some fresh avocado. Oh my gosh, amazing. Oh, and I'll also add lots of cheese in there, some cream cheese and some Colby Jack cheese. So good. So I would say I'm actually still like a 6. Okay. So that tells me 2 hours later, I'm still pretty full. I'm definitely like not feeling snacky at all. I'm like, yeah, I feel like that was a pretty solid lunch. It had lots of protein in it, had a little bit of fat, a little bit of carb. I feel great. It's keeping me full. I actually don't think I need to eat for like another 3 hours or so. So you guys can also use it to assess your last meal, because here's the thing. If you are checking in and your hunger is like, like a 2 or a 3, but it's only been like 2 hours, that probably was either not enough food or maybe it wasn't enough protein. So that's what I would say. It probably was either too low in calories or too low in protein. You can look at a little bit of both, and then you can tweak it from there, because really we want to find some meals that are going to keep us full at least 3 hours, if not longer. I would say 4 to 6 is really like that sweet spot. But that's also going to depend on a lot of things, your activity level, what your goals are, right? Your age and all of those things. But that's a good rule of thumb. Having big enough meals to help you be able to feel less snacky and carry you over to that next meal. And it's also going to help you avoid thinking about food all the time, because when you're hungry all the time because you're just eating like low calorie foods, right? That's when we start to kind of get those obsessive thoughts, thinking about food all the time. And we want to avoid that, right? We definitely don't want to like not think about food at all, but we also do not want to think about it all the time. We want to find that sweet spot. So that's what mindfulness is basically like paying attention to your hunger, your fullness. But not only that, it could also be other biofeedback markers like your energy levels. Like those are all good things to look at. Now, moderation, on the other hand, is a little bit different. So I think of moderation as kind of like another word of for satisfaction. Okay, so this is really where the preemptive cheats come in. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But also moderation, I always think in this context. So like we have diet food on one hand. Okay. So think of what's like diet foods, like grilled chicken with nothing on it, with some steamed broccoli, and like that's it, right? Plain egg whites, rice cakes. I'm not saying these foods are bad, that you should never eat them, but if that's your whole meal, like a egg white, just scrambled egg whites, and that's it, right? Like that's what I'm talking about. Like super clean foods, not really fun, but yeah, they're healthy and they're clean, great. So on one hand, we have these diet foods. On the other hand, we have like, think of all the things, right? Like Olive Garden dinner with like chicken Alfredo, extra Alfredo sauce, breadsticks with Alfredo sauce on the side, a couple Italian margaritas. We also had a cheesecake for dessert. So we have like diet food on one hand, and then we have like all out, right? Like super high fat, high starch foods. And then also like not only that, but like overeating on them, right? So moderation is that idea of finding the middle in between those two. Okay. So instead of those options, right, we might go somewhere in the middle. Maybe like instead of like ordering that grilled chicken and steamed broccoli at the Olive Garden, and instead of getting the chicken Alfredo with all the things, right, maybe we order something like the chicken scampi, right? Maybe we do like a little more vegetable and a little bit less pasta. Maybe I just have a breadstick, and then maybe I just have like a couple bites of my friend's dessert. Okay. So that would be a more moderate choice. And that's what we want to do as women, especially if you are struggling with your weight, especially if you are finding yourself like in this annoying cycle of like all or nothing, right? Like restricting, binging, dieting, or all out. Let's find that middle choice. It really does make all the difference. Okay. So let's talk about preemptive cheats. I'm going to kind of walk you guys through how to implement this, because again, it is the ping-ponging back and forth between the super healthy food and then the all out, right? And overeating on them, having these effort thoughts of like, fuck it, what's the use, right? Like I'm never going to figure out my eating. I might as well enjoy myself. So yeah, there's like a whole mindset shift in there. This is what we do inside of Moderation 365. And we also have to consider things like, again, I'm not against dieting. I'm not against intermittent fasting, but here's the thing. A lot of people do intermittent fasting as a way to lose weight, as a way to like kind of correct their behavior over the weekend. But if it is ending in a binge, that is a problem, right? So I'm not necessarily against intermittent fasting, even though I don't really do it much anymore. I think there is a time and a place to do it, but I think that it is glamorized a lot. And I think that if you are not coming out of that correctly, if, you are breaking your fast with like highly palatable foods, which is don't do that. If you are going to fast, make sure that you are breaking your fast with high protein, right? Something lower carb, something that is not like super delicious, like a fast food meal, right? Something that's, I'm not saying bland, I guess, but something that is moderate, I guess I should say. Something that's higher protein, right? Has lots of nutrients, not something that is going to make you want to eat and eat and eat, okay? So I see that as an issue, because a lot of people, they will try intermittent fasting as a way to correct their behavior from the weekend before, or as a way to lose weight. And again, I think they can be done. In fact, if you guys want to hear my thoughts on intermittent fasting, go check out, I think I did it just a couple weeks ago. And I'm sorry, I really do need to go in and actually number all the episodes. But it wasn't too long ago. I believe it was like in September. It is December now. So you probably won't have to scroll back that far. But if you guys want to hear my thoughts on intermittent fasting, check out that episode. Lots of like good pros and cons. So if you're considering it, check that out. But I just want to bring that up because a lot of times when I start working with women, they talk about their fasting and then how like, they end up screwing it up with overindulging later. So just something I want to point out. I also see a lot of times when I first start working with women, I'll look at their food logs and I'm like looking at their like 150 calorie breakfast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's no effing way I could do that. Like, ladies, you can eat more than 150, 200 calories for breakfast, okay? And by the way, if you haven't gotten the memo yet, 2 eggs is not necessarily like a good breakfast, right? Like you might need a little bit more than that, not to mention that that's not really high protein anyway. But anyway, that's a whole other subject. But what I'm saying is these wimpy meals, okay, the intermittent fasting and eating the diet foods, that is setting you up to binge later. Again, there is a time and place for intermittent fasting, for calorie restriction. Yes, those things can come into play. But if you are finding yourself overindulging as a result, then we've got work to do. Okay. And the work here is the mindfulness and the moderation. So again, moderation is finding that middle ground in between the diet food and the all-out choice. And it's also another word for satisfaction. So this is how you're going to implement moderation with preemptive cheats. Again, you guys can check out my preemptive cheat sheet. I love it. Isn't that cute? Because it's called preemptive cheat. It's a preemptive cheat sheet. You guys can get it for free, okay? It's a PDF that walks you through. It tells my story. It walks you through exactly how to implement it. And it also has some places where you can write down some ideas and you can also track your progress. Because here's the thing, I promise you all, you give it a try. If you're struggling with overeating at night or on the weekends and you give this a try, I can almost guarantee it's going to work for you, okay? And in fact, I want you to let me know, okay? If you download this and you get a result from it, will you please send me an email? Or you guys can check me out on Instagram. I'm at cfitness.training. Please follow me if you haven't. I would love for you to be a part of my community, but I would love to hear from you if this works for you, because it works for me. It works for a lot of my clients, and it really is a great tool. So basically, what you're going to do is anticipate, okay, those cravings that are going to hit. Remember, willpower, just like a battery, it might be strong in the morning or strong in the beginning of the week, but it weakens, right? So your willpower will decrease, okay, with time, with all the demands from the day, okay? So this is exactly why you find yourself craving things around mid-afternoon, late evening, or some people, they might not really have those cravings until later in the week. Maybe it's like Wednesday, Thursday, or maybe even the weekend, right? So that is exactly why. This is why we do not want to depend on willpower. We've had this conversation before. I do think that using it in small doses is fine, but depending on it solely, like a lot of diets do, it's just not going to work. Okay. So there's that. It's very limited, right? It's going to drain, it's going to charge. And a lot of times it's pretty unpredictable because it can go off of how you feel as well, right? Like stress is going to tear down your willpower a little bit, right? So just like anything else, just like motivation is going to wane a little bit. It might increase sometimes, it might decrease sometimes. So we just have to keep that in mind. It's just like energy or motivation, anything else is going to go up and down, okay? But basically what we want to do, we want to anticipate those cravings that we might get later in the day or later in the week, and basically kind of like beat yourself to the punch. So one good example that you guys can do is breakfast. Again, I see so many people that fast. Not that fasting's bad, and I definitely it's not like I never do it or never tell people to do it, because here's the thing, there is lots of great benefits to it. But if we are binging later, it's not a good strategy for us, right? So what we want to do, we want to anticipate what's going to happen later. So what we can do, we can kind of like give our body what it wants now as a way to avoid those cravings later. So you guys can do things like put cream in your coffee, right? Like I remember I have to drink black coffee, because I'm trying to lose weight. Well, that's not really true. Like you could still have half and half in your coffee, like as long as you're not using a lot, like a lot. But I put half and half in my coffee It doesn't matter if I'm in a cut or not. Like, I put half and half in my coffee because I know if I feel satisfied earlier in the day, more than likely I'm not going to be reaching for the chips later. Okay. You can do this with dietary fat. Like, a lot of people, I know myself included, I used to be so scared to do things like add cheese or add butter or add any kind of delicious flavor to my meals because of calories. But here's the thing, if you're overeating at night and it's like a lot, then let's try adding a little bit more flavor to our meals so we feel a lot more satisfied. Yeah, you're going to be eating more calories earlier in the day, but I'm very curious what happens when you try this. So, egg white omelet. Okay, let's add some cheese or something, or maybe we cook it in butter. Let's add a little fat to it. Let's put some avocado in there, something to make it a lot more interesting, make it more satisfying, bulk it up with a little more calories. So that's another good way. The other way that you can do this is with really anything that you desire. So it might be a small amount of ice cream. It might be a couple chocolates after lunch, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be a clean food. Probably one of my favorite ways to do this is kind of pick something that is a moderate choice. So maybe something that's not like super healthy, but I might do this with a protein bar. So I might not get like the super clean protein bars because they taste like freaking cardboard. But I might get one that's like, okay, like it's not super clean, like it has some protein, but it's not like super high protein. So I might do something like that. Like, it's not the best choice, but it's also not like diet food. And it actually tastes good, right? So that's another thing that you can do. You can do like a protein bar or a protein shake, something like that. So again, why don't you guys grab my free preemptive cheat sheet? It is in the show notes. All you got to do is sign up, and it's going to be delivered straight to your inbox within seconds. So you're going to get immediate access. And again, I would love to hear from you. I would love for you to give this free tool a try and let me know how it works for you. So if you guys want a little more information on Moderation 365, I will be doing a webinar series probably late January. So I'll definitely come on here before then and let you know how you guys can join that. That will give you a little bit more info on why you're binge eating, the causes of that, the mistakes that women make when it comes to trying to overcome binge eating. And also, I'm going to share whoever comes to the webinar how they can work with me one-on-one. So Moderation 365 is a high-touch, one-on-one nutrition coaching program that is designed to help you stop overeating and start eating the same on Saturday as you do on Monday. So this is totally necessary, especially if you're someone who wants to lose weight. You haven't been successful, you feel out of control with food, and all you can do is think about food all day, and you're constantly starting over on Monday, trying to get back onto the diet wagon, but you just can't seem to stay in control with food. And at some point, you find yourself falling off track and throwing all of your eating healthy efforts out the window, and you're finding yourself in this restrict binge cycle that is just not serving you. So that is who Moderation 365 is for. You will get lifetime access. It's a 3-month program, high touch. You will get 3 months of coaching sessions with me, as well as private messaging with me. So I only have 8 spots because it's one-on-one and it's very high touch. So if you're interested, go ahead and shoot me an email now, okay, before I run out of spots. So send me an email at cfitnessonlinetraining@gmail.com. I will go ahead and put my email address in the show notes. So thank you so much for being here. I do want to ask one favor. If you are enjoying this podcast, please help me out, y'all, because this is just not getting pushed out to the logarithm, okay? I don't know if I need to change the name or whatever I need to do, but my downloads have decreased, and we need to change that. So do me a favor, if you are listening, If you stayed all the way to the end, please share this with a friend and please write me a review. It really goes a long way. It means the world to me. And by doing so, by sharing my podcast, by writing me a 5-star review, it really does help me reach more people. And that's my goal. There's so many people who need to hear this message that are just not hearing it. Okay. So do me a favor, help me spread the word. Let's help more women feel more in control of food and start eating normal again. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to also link my private Facebook group. It is for women only, please. Okay. It's called Lean Lifestyle. It's the same name as this podcast. So by joining, you guys can be in my community where we have more private conversations about losing fat and building muscle in your 40s and beyond. All right. Thank you so much for being here, and bye for now.